Welcome to IT Live, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Joe Cook. That's Justin Wells. That's Ian Boyd. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining in. Dre McGowan, appreciate you. Appreciate our normal crew. See you in the chat in just a second. Before we keep going, got to let everybody know, you got to like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Just hit that like button real fast. We appreciate y'all. If you're on X, go ahead and retweet this to your stream. We appreciate it. But if you're not on Inside Texas yet, you got to go join Inside Texas. Use that first link in our description. Use that QR code you see at the top left of the screen. If you've been wanting recruiting news, man, this is the place you got to go to. You got to go to Inside Texas because we've been posting visitor after visitor after visitor who are scheduling visits. I just posted something on some guys Texas wants to flip in this 2027 class. Got a few players committed elsewhere who will be making their way to the 40 acres this spring and summer. So come check it out. Get the latest intel. Use that QR code. Use that first link in our description. Can't wait to see everybody over there. Roaster, good morning. Appreciate you. Chris Bennett, Blake, Cotton, absolutely. Thank y'all. And Chris Bennett. Let's start with this real quick. Pete Kwiatkowski picking up a defensive line job with the Cardinals. I forgot who they picked as their head coach. And I know that's a franchise that's about to make a lot of change. Mike LaFleur. They fired Gannon and they got Mike LaFleur. And I forgot where he was at.
They should have fired the real problem, which was Kyler Murray.
I think they did. LaFleur
no, they fired the coach. They kept Kyler.
Yeah, but I think the Kyler era is over. But
he's the Kyler Murray era ended when it got leaked that they wrote into his contract you actually have to watch film
and not play as much Fortnite or Call of Duty.
Madden doesn't count as film watching.
Yeah.
But PK to the Cardinals. The defensive coordinator is Nick Rollis, who is a carry or a leftover. They're keeping him there even after they got rid of Gannon. Joining a defensive staff that has Zach Etheridge is a name I recognize because he's been at U of H, at Auburn. But PK to the NFL, guys. We had heard Stanford, and we had heard a little USC chatter. Of course, Gary Patterson took that, but this kind of seems right for a lot of different reasons, right, Justin?
Yeah. I mean, look, PK knows what he's doing. First of all, he's a great guy. He's a great coach. He's a good builder of relationships. He has a certain MO that he likes with his defensive fronts. He has things that he prefers. I think it's universal. I think his coaching works at high school level, college level, and the NFL level. PK is I don't know if he's a relationships guy, but he's a relatable guy. And I know Lance Jackson used to just rave about how it was just talking to another guy. You know, he didn't try to present himself as more than he was. He was just very astute and very, he knew what he wanted. And so I love it for PK. I was a fan. I love that Sark cut the cord and decided to go with an SEC-style defensive front moving forward. And I think they needed to do that. But, man, PK did exactly what Texas wanted him to. I've seen Texas fire a lot of offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. PK was the one that it's like, nah, bro, this didn't pass the smell test.
I'm not sure if we'll ever find this out, but my guess is it may have been a little bit more mutual than anticipated than maybe the statement. Because whenever we would talk to recruits, PK would be mentioned sometimes in passing. That just wasn't his thing. And that's when you have a staff, you have guys who have things. And I think whenever the recruiting restrictions on coaches on the road were changed or altered to where you can kind of pick and choose, there was a reason PK didn't get out that much. And I think there's this big storyline with the NFL these days about how, all these guys are going from college to the pros because they're tired of the time. I think that's true for a lot of instances. I think that's true for this instance. But you always have to remember the NFL is the pinnacle. There are only 32 teams. It's a high level. Why do you think Jim Harbaugh left his alma mater to go to the NFL? Because he wants to win a Super Bowl too. Because as great as winning a national championship at Michigan was for him, he wants that other ring. And he was this close. He wants to get another one. I think PK probably falls into that bucket where he probably, if he really wanted to pursue an opening in the college game, he probably could have went and found it. But he's 59, 60 or something like that. From what we know about his recruiting tendencies and habits, I think he was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, let me go to the NFL. Let me burn the candle at both ends from August to January, and then I will take my January to OTAs off and have a good time with that. So I think that's what it was. But a good fit defensive line. We knew, Ian, that he could make some pretty good defensive fronts.
Yeah, he's got lots of scheme and technique to teach up front. As soon as he came, Texas defensive linemen were raving about all his different answers and stuff that he was teaching them. And you could see it. Like I would often be writing about his principles or philosophies, but I would give like the most dumbed down, simplest version of what he was doing, because he'd watch them and they'd play multiple fronts in every game. They're always moving guys around into different spots. They were as simple as they were on the back end, and as much as that his whole defense had the vibe of being like bend, don't break, really simple, make you beat us. Up front, they had a lot of little quirks and tweaks to what they would do to try to make it hard for you to, hammer away and actually break down the defense. All of his complexity was up front. So he makes sense for the NFL in that regard. I agree. He's 60. It's like, you really want to deal with this NIL transfer stuff. You could go coach pros under contract, do it in Arizona.
Remember when he ran the I formation on defense?
It was awesome. I'm trying to see who they
Alfred Collins. Hey, I don't know if you guys noticed. Alfred Collins had a sneaky good rookie year in San Francisco. Collins was the one that I think got the sack on that play, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
watching that I formation. I mean, against Texas Tech, you could throw out all sorts of stuff just to see what would work. It usually did.
He's going to have some interesting guys to work with. The guys on the front, at least looking at this right now for the Cardinals, are Calais Campbell coming back.
He's 45.
LJ Collier, Dante Stills, who, man, I remember that guy. And then some of his outside line, Baron Browning, Jordan Birch, Zaven Collins, BJ Olujari, and Josh Sweat. So
there's not much there for that defense.
Yeah, that's a college all-star team, but this is the NFL. So yeah, Calais Campbell, what a name. What a guy.
I think he was over the 2001 Miami national champion.
Man, I hope they already have a gold jacket ready for him. Speaking of gold jacket, no, I'm joking. But we got to talk a little bit about, Ian, what you wrote this morning, a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. And when we saw Texas add Michael Masunis, and we saw that Texas retained guys like Nick Townsend, obviously, and even Spencer Shannon, and looking at that tight end room, we saw maybe an idea for where Texas could shift toward a lot more two tight end sets. And we know that even though two tight ends on the field makes the skill personnel look a little bit different, it can still open things up for the offense. But we also know Steve Sarkisian is multiple in what he wants to do on offense, and that he's never really going to abandon 11 personnel. And what you're writing today kind of explains how Texas, with Arch Manning, could really benefit in 11 personnel almost as much maybe as the 12 personnel fit at this point.
Yep. There's so much to this. I'm probably going to write about this a few more times. So like all the names you just said, Masunis and the running backs, and also Coleman, all those guys coming in through the portal, give a very clear, like, you can just run the ball and throw it over the top to Coleman sense for this team. We know Sark would love to do that. We know Arch Manning would be really good at that, right? He's like, is he the best deep ball passer y'all have seen at Texas?
Yeah.
I mean, one of them. Chris Sims threw a good, really nice deep ball.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago, you know.
I'll age myself, but I got to tell you, Chris Sims threw a really, really pretty deep ball.
Applewhite was effective throwing deep too.
Applewhite was intermediate. He didn't have the arm to throw it deep.
I know he didn't have the arm, but he would hit.
He was accurate with it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He could hit a seam. If Brian White had a crease, he could hit him on a seam.
McCoy was like that too, but
yeah,
didn't have the arm to fire a post really deep, but his timing was really good.
Sims was kind of born with one.
Casey Thompson actually
my God.
He was probably the most effective deep ball passer for Sark until Manning arrived. Which was a shock.
That's damning with faint praise.
Dude, it
is what it is.
Right.
You would watch him struggle with it, but he would actually hit it some.
Anyway, Xavier Worthy was really, really helpful there.
Well, he wasn't as helpful for Ewers, though.
Yeah, because Ewers was throwing it straight.
Anyway, 2026 Texas, Ian, you wrote, the Longhorns will be very thankful on multiple occasions next year for the ability to get big and run the ball, so with 12 personnel, but to really lean into the advantages created by having Arch Manning at quarterback, this team needs to figure out how to maximize an 11 personnel, which is one running back and one tight end. And three wide receivers. And so you get into what the ideal 11 personnel offense looks like. And this shouldn't be too unfamiliar for Texas for the past decade, because ever since the Herman offense started, and I'll always kind of say that Tom Herman, for all his problems as far as management goes, he helped usher Texas into a little bit more of the modern era of spread offense, because I know I don't want to say Colt and Shipley were so dialed in on certain aspects of that offense that it was kind of like this rethinking of older school offense. Like, okay, let's just, instead of putting a tight end on the field, let's put this wide receiver here and force linebackers and limited coverage guys to go to play Jordan Shipley in coverage. And everything would kind of play off of that. And then Texas kind of entered an era where, oh no, we got to do power run because we lost to Bama and Bama does it right. Switch. Charlie Strong never really getting offense.
Snip,
Herman
snap,
helped,
snip.
huh?
I said snip, snap, snip, snap.
Yeah. Herman, for all his faults, did kind of bring the first semblances of modern offensive football to the Longhorn program. And a lot of that had to do with 11 personnel. And a lot of the principles that held up then are holding up here for what really works in 11 personnel offenses. And that starts with what they've got at quarterback.
Yeah. The trick with spread offense and 11 personnel offense is obviously a lot goes on the quarterback. When you're in 12 personnel or 21, so much of what you're doing is overpowering the team in the run game with big blockers. And then the quarterback is sniping on deep shots over the top. That's kind of what Sark loves. And they could actually do that effectively from 11 personnel. And they have, and they will do that from 11 personnel. But the pro spread type of offense from 11 is, in my opinion, the highest form of offense that we've seen. So like McCoy, Vince Young actually majored in that. Joe Burrow and LSU. The NFL, had been fairly dominant in the NFL. Some of the NFL is getting more back into 12 and 21 now, or 13 for the Rams. But
Chargers.
The key with the spread is that you create more options. And when you create more options, that means you create more decisions for your quarterback to make. And so it becomes essential that your quarterback is worth that he can handle the decision making, and also he can handle the playmaking, because he's going to end up throwing a little more than he would in a run heavy, blocker heavy system. And he's going to end up running it more, either because he's scrambling around or because you need him to run it to get you over the top. So
is this something where you can work around a lack of offensive line stability, I guess to say?
No, I would say no. I would say you can get around the lack of offensive line talent, but everybody needs to know what they're doing. So
and they need to be decent at it.
They need to be decent. It's like the thing that Paul keeps preaching this offseason. If you have a bunch of guys that are like a 5 out of 6 out of 10, this can work for you. You cannot get by with a 2 or a 3 like Texas had last year at left guard. You don't necessarily have to have you don't really at all need maulers. If you have like one, that's great. You don't really need an NFL pass protector if you have one, that's better than if you don't. It's not like they don't help, but you're relying on the spacing and the quarterback to make a lot of things right for you.
Receivers, you need the deep threat. That's been something that you've harped on for the past decade as well. You need somebody who can work and live at the chains. But there's only one tight end on the field in these situations. And there's a certain skill set that, you know what, you can work. I don't want to say work around, but you don't need Kenyon Sadiq. I mean, don't worry, it would help. But you don't need somebody just to be an all-world tight end in this system. You need it kind of sounds like you're writing. They need more competency there.
Yeah, you need competency and you need blocking. So the sort of paradox of this in this style is you would think, hey, if you're going spread and you're putting it all on the quarterback, then you want like the Travis Kelce, you want the dynamic receiving tight end.
I'd argue you want a bigger tight end because you're going to need that extra blocker since you don't have 2 tight ends on the field.
Yes, exactly. Also, if your tight end is more of a receiver and like barely passable as a blocker, then they don't have to respect the run.
Yeah.
The key with the tight end is that you have a guy that maintains the threat of a physical run game. And then that forces the defense to be like, well, we can't just sell out to stop the spread passing game. We have to be aware that they could run the ball effectively at any moment. And then when you do want to pass, now you've forced the defense to call plays that are designed to not give up the ghost against the run. And then you force them to play defenders that can stop the run. Now, when you have the veteran tight end that knows what he's doing, even if he's not that great of a receiver, you can flex him out of the formation and move him around. And because the defense has run stoppers on the field, they get caught in pickles where they're like, okay, do we send our linebacker out to cover the tight end way out there? And then so that we can keep our cornerback on the receiver that's actually good. But now the offense knows exactly what we're doing and we have limited options and we're really limited. Or do we use our awesome cornerback to cover this tight end who's not even that dangerous? And now they're Jordan Shipley or Little Jordan Humphrey is running routes on our freaking linebackers. Those are the dilemmas that you create when you have a real tight end and 11 personnel.
So this is something that you see as attainable for Texas. And I'm glad you brought this up as well. They have they have the right tight ends, I feel like, to really make a 12 personnel offense. You think Townsend can fit and do what they need in an 11 personnel offense?
Yeah, because he is more of a blocker than a receiver.
Yeah.
At this point.
Ian, wouldn't you say the 11 is actually better? I wouldn't think 12 is the best suit for the tight ends in this room right now. I would honestly think 11, Joe. And Nick Townsend honestly kind of fits exactly what Ian's talking about.
Yes. For Masunis, I think 12 is good. And I think when he plays, which will probably be pretty often, it'll be in 12. But Townsend is the most important guy there for next season.
100%.
And Townsend can play in 11. because he's a good blocker. He's
Great blocker.
He's willing and able. So you get that effect I'm talking about where the defense has to respect the run. And then he can learn how to move around and run like a hitch route while, Cam Coleman runs a slot fade or something. That's not that hard. He can do that. I also think with a off season to work on it, I think he can be really good at the sorts of tight end leak plays, Joe, that you've talked about, and the tight end screens we used to see for Jatavian Sanders when he was
Joe
quicker.
loves those plays.
I think Townsend would be really good on those because he's freaking fast. So it's like a tight end screen. It's like pretend to block and then go stand over here behind some linemen. And then when you catch the ball, run like heck. Townsend can do that.
Townsend is the quintessential tight end for this 11 personnel. And let's not forget that nice little play that they put in the beginning of the fourth quarter against Texas A&M. Him in the H-back and that fullback role, woo, that was a sexy play, guys. Unfortunately, Michigan saw it coming a month later, kind of stumped it. But still, I think Townsend fits exactly this personnel suiting that Ian's talking about.
Yeah.
So as we look at wide receiver, I want to get to this question from Dre McGowan. Would you move Coleman around in the formation, similar to how Ohio State moves Jeremiah Smith, or are you just locking him on the perimeter?
Perimeter.
I would play him mostly on the perimeter, like Justin's saying. I'm going to move him inside every once in a while to run a deeper route.
Just keep him off. Yeah, keep him honest.
And just for like a designed shot.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time he's staying outside, and it's just an alert where it's like, hey, if they don't double team him, there it is. And when they do double team him, is hopefully they have to do. Now we're working it to Mosley, Wingo, Dibblett, whatever they're trying to do.
So you wrote in here, deep threat receiver is now firmly established with Coleman, but what about the other receiver spot? One of the other receiver spots. Ryan Wingo's a real weapon, but he has not, to this point in his career, been a reliable chain mover with superior route running and catching. And Emmett Mosley, the fifth, might be that guy and probably needs to be. Between that group, Texas would appear to have the pieces to make this happen if they elected to major in this grouping and a spread passing style. I feel like Mosley fitting into the slot is perfect. You still let Wingo do some of the other things. You can kind of move. You want Coleman to do a lot of deep stuff. You want Wingo to be able to do the horizontal stuff. They're going to have to switch those roles, from time to time to keep things regular. My question when I first read through this is like, what about some of the other receivers that they have? And the guys that come to mind, I mean, I feel like Burkhalter is someone who could be either. He's not, I don't know. He's definitely not going to be the big type of difference maker that Wingo or Coleman are. You probably put him out there for snaps so Coleman and Wingo can get a quick breather, that type of thing. But I'm more curious about Dalen McCutcheon and Khalil Lockett, because I think maybe Lockett could be someone who does some of the things Coleman does. And then Jermaine Bishop. Like, where does Jermaine Bishop fit in this?
Inside.
I don't really know.
I think he has to be inside because think, Ian, about the sizes of the guys that are playing on the other spots. Like just out of necessity, I feel like Bishop inside is, have him behind McCutcheon, but I feel like they almost need him for that spot just for 2026.
In some ways, he's almost like the next Wingo, where you kind of want to like move him around on screens and stuff and just throw him underneath and then let him go. Right.
Yeah.
That from what I've seen, which is actually not that much, that's my sense of Jermaine Roberts and where he is
Bishop,
right now.
Bishop.
Who's Jermaine? Jermaine was like a little cornerback that didn't quite pan out for Texas. Is that right?
No, Jermaine Jackson was the Jackson that did not have as big a success as Latoya and Michael and Janet. He was Jermaine had 2 albums, and that was about it. Now, if you're going to talk about Batman, Jermaine Bishop, that's different.
Oh, that's what I'm. That's the thing. That's what
I'm sorry.
Here's a question. Here's
basically like for Burkhalter and for Lockett and even McCutcheon, I kind of see their fits, but like Bishop, he's so electric. It's like you can kind of put him anywhere, but you're curious about maybe what to do with them this year with the guys in the room.
I think Lockett is your future Coleman, where it's like get him out there on an island and let him win go balls and force them to get a safety over. McCutcheon is kind of like Mosley, only maybe a little more explosive.
I think he's more like DeAndre Moore.
Kind of an all-around receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we still have yet to see what Wingo will end up being. Wingo has kind of been like a jumbo slot, and not a jumbo as in slow, like as fast as a small slot, but just big.
He's been a split out running back for a lot of his career.
Yeah. They've tried to use him as a real receiver, and he's not really been up for it yet. But you just give him the ball short.
He did pretty well in the intermediate game the second half of the season.
He got better. I think he might have like a lot of leaps ahead. But as of now, a lot of this doesn't really matter because we all know that unless there's an injury, it's going to be these three guys on the field, 80.
Especially in conference play. Like we might see some mixing and matching in non-con, but once the SEC play starts, that bench is going to get short.
I mean, don't tell McCutcheon or Lockett, but
they know it.
They're probably not going to play very much this year unless something bad happens.
I think they're going to play more than you think, Ian. Let's not go down that hole in February.
One of those guys will.
Yeah, come on,
we'll
man.
See who it is.
Yeah, the guys stick around, be super invested. You're absolutely going to play. Never mind.
Before we keep going, because the rest of this is really interesting to follow, got to show some love to our sponsor real quick. That is Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Fast one.
Same-day delivery powered by DoorDash.
So the header to this section is Sark and the joystick, and sometimes that can kind of be seen as a pejorative, like, oh, you don't trust your quarterback to make reads or figure out things in the offense. Well, that green dot with the helmet communication, Sark's like calling the play, X right turbo, blah, 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 blah. Hey, look for this guy. And, it's a lot of, and then sometimes that's also just evident by the design. And you had mentioned that early in the season for Arch on plays that look like reads, which is, the classic mesh play where you go wheel, crosser, middle, crosser. It was actually just a design to get one guy the ball. Arch didn't hit those throws. Arch got a lot of flack for missing throws throughout the non-conference slate, but he ended up, and I think the Mississippi State game and even the maybe a little bit of that Arkansas game stands out in people's minds about what it looks like when you can go to your quarterback, be like, here are your options. You've got to figure out what the right one is.
Yeah, this is very difficult. Sark's ability to perfectly design a play to get his primary read open was super effective. It was a good fit for Quinn Ewers. It was very effective for a long time, probably more so with Mac Jones in Alabama before defenses were catching up. You can understand why the coach would rather, instead of hoping that the quarterback gets a million things right with his decision-making, you just design like a million plays that are very simple, and then it just becomes about execution and mastering the throw, right? It makes the game a little more physical and a little less mental. But defenses have caught up to that and made that a lot more difficult. That's one problem. The other problem is that Manning can do the NFL thing. He can read things and make decisions for himself. And so if the quarterback can actually do that, that's better. And you're kind of paying a big opportunity cost when you don't let Manning do that.
Explain again. I know you've gone over it plenty before, but the NFL thing and what progression passing really looks like and why it really is so difficult for anybody to stop, whether in the FBS level, the Power 4 level, or even in the NFL.
To get progression passing right, your quarterback has to be able to get through multiple reads, which means seeing it clearly and making decisions like that, right? And then skill-wise, he has to be able to move his feet as he gets through the progression with the right timing. So he's looking at guys when they actually are going to break open. He has to be looking at them and with his feet set in time to make that decision and to throw a good ball. And so that level of footwork and understanding and just like how automatic it all has to be.
Timing.
That timing is difficult to come by. It usually takes guys a while to get there.
Ian, wouldn't you say in college it's generally they split the field in half? They give them the 3 read to the right, 3 read to the left, where in the NFL it's the bigger scope and they can't just necessarily break it down that easily for you?
Yeah, they have to be able to read more of the field, right?
Right. In college, I think most guys just get the half a field. In the NFL, they get the full scope.
That's for sure part of it. There's also like navigating the pocket. Like it's one thing to be able to move your feet in time so that you're set for each read. It's another thing to do that while also navigating the pass rush. That's what trips up, most
everybody. Hey, you know who was the best at doing that, Ian?
Arch Manning.
Tony Romo.
Sure. If you include NFL guys.
I know. I'm just saying, man, he was so good at that.
Romo was super cerebral, was part of the trick.
Yeah.
Then there's another level in the NFL of like Tom Brady goes to the huddle and makes sure his team is in the right play before the snap, or Arch Manning or Peyton Manning makes sure that his team is in the right play before the snap to optimize their chance at a successful play. Because in the NFL, you need to be able to put together 1 million 5-yard, 10-yard gains. And you can't, it's not like college where you can just hit big really easily and really consistently. Sark is always just trying to hit big and make it easy. Get an explosive play over the top, crease them in the run game, score quickly on explosive plays, don't have to be perfect, which is generally right for college. But you've got this guy that maybe he doesn't turn your offense into a systematic machine where you're just picking up small gains, but Arch Manning, if you let him, could help you get the big plays and avoid the small play and avoid the disastrous plays if you just give him a little more autonomy at the line of scrimmage to make decisions.
And one of the things that this brings up is, when you think about it in 12 personnel, and it's not going to be like funneled into these two categories every time, but like 12 personnel is going to look like the run to set up the pass type offense, Justin. Whereas 11 personnel could be something where it's the pass to set up the run. And then guys like Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown really are able to benefit from some of the lighter boxes they're able to see.
You know who was the first person that I'd read make the comment? Forever old school football was, run to set up the pass. Like that was just kind of the common thread. Bill Walsh, he's like, no, it can be more beautiful. It can be more simplistic. Why don't we throw the ball to set up the run? And that beautiful West Coast timing passing style, which was synonymous with the 80s and early 90s, man, it was beautiful. That's what that reminds me of, is Bill Walsh kind of changing that. And that's what you get. Like when you get guys like Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown, they're not your stereotypical inside run kind of guys, but you put them behind you get them a couple lanes. That's where they're going to flourish. And it kind of reminds me how Baylor used to go really wide with their guys just so they could get wide running lanes running the ball. And so, yeah, it's funny how both formations can set you up for the other. I just remember with the first time hearing about football actually transitioning from that mentality to, hey, let's throw the ball to set up the run. I remember Bill Walsh would talk eloquently about that.
You have this, Ian, when the field is spread with 4 or 5 legit targets, the ability of a defense to disguise its coverages and thus its blitzes also gets stressed to the breaking point. Best answer for simulated blitzes targeting weak spots and protection is quick spread passing into the vacated zones. And those simulated blitzes, those are 4-man pressures, but you drop a defensive end and you bring an inside linebacker. So you still get a 4-man rush, but the picture changes for the offensive lineman. If you do that, well, okay, there's someone sitting over the middle at the chains, maybe Emmett Mosley, and there's your pawn take And what would that be in your chess analogies? Would that be a pawn take knight, or that'd be a pawn take pawn if it's just moving the chains? Going real cross sport here and calling chess a sport.
I think when you beat a blitz, it's more of a pawn takes knight kind of deal, because the defenses usually they have assumed some level of risk in bringing guys and pushing guys out of their normal position. And if you actually punish them for it, you can really exploit it.
Sounds like the Bobby Fischer blitz.
Okay.
We're gonna have to figure out a way to put that into our parlance, because I'm a fan of that. You don't really mention arch running. You mentioned the dual threat quarterback. Is that something that we could see probably in forthcoming articles?
Yeah, probably. I want to answer. Sugar Poppy says, what is the equivalent of exchanging queens? That's when Sark calls up a deep shot and Manning throws it and hits it for a touchdown, but also gets crushed and driven into the turf and injured. Dinged up. That's the exchange. That's the exchanging of queens. The other thing with these blitzes is that the defense is trying to fool you. They're like, we're going to bring these guys. Oh, wait, no, we're actually bringing these guys over here, right? But if you have all these receivers spread out in very threatening positions on the field, then the quarterback can look around and say, I know you're not going to bring this guy, because if you do that, then you have to cover Cam Coleman with him, or you have to cover Ryan Wingo with him. And I know you're not going to do that unless you're stupid. So either you're going to do that, and I'm immediately going to crush you for it, or what you're actually doing is you're going to bring this guy because you need to maintain. You understand what I'm saying? When you spread things out, you eliminate the defense's ability to disguise what they're doing, because they will put themselves in bad situations, specifically on like first down. On third down, they're going to be in like dime sub package or whatever. They're going to have a million defensive backs on the field, and then they can still maintain the disguise element. But on 1st and 10, when they have real linebackers out there, they can't fool you in the same way if you attack them in this fashion. And so you can undo so much of the threat of these blitzes if you can play that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it.
Hey, let me clear it with Sugar Poppy just real quick. I don't know a chess guy. I know a chicken that plays chess named Bobby Fischer. I don't know if you've ever heard of Roy Dam Mercer, but he used to do a lot of prank phone calls on a radio show. I believe it was out of Oklahoma. You should listen to that. He had a chess. He taught his chicken how to play chess, and he named him Bobby Fischer. And that's how I know about that.
Have you seen the movie with Lawrence Fishburne?
No.
Okay.
Well.
Oh man!
Unless it's the Roy Dan Mercer documentary.
No,
I have not.
Great sports movie. Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Searching for Bobby Fischer. Is it farm related? Because I'm telling you, that chicken was good.
Banny Rooster.
It's a Banny Rooster. Hey, my man Rex knows. If you haven't listened to Roy Dam Mercer, you don't understand how important that chicken they taught how to play chess. I mean, that sucker was gonna peck you and then check you. It was something cool.
Justin, get this. New York sports writer discovers his son is a chess prodigy. Tries to balance raising his son to be a chess prodigy, like overbearing sports dad, versus letting him be a child.
That's an interesting backstory.
Sounds like a quarterback.
It's a good movie. It's a little slower paced because it's made in the 90s, but it's good. It's on Netflix, I think.
Before we keep on going, got to show some love to our other sponsor, that is Andre the Lawyer.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results: Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
We'll go from some on-field stuff to some off-field stuff. And one of the things the other day that got a lot of people's feathers ruffled was Texas canceling the Arizona State series in 2032 and 33, I believe it was. And it's funny. I had Ari Wasserman on yesterday, talked about why Arch Manning was his number one quarterback coming in to the 2026 season. And he kind of hinted at it. It's like, you want to talk about the schedule stuff? Because I'm about to probably be on Texas case later today. I'm like, no, let's keep it. Let's keep it. So the video is really good. It's on our channel. We don't talk schedule. He's doting on Arch Manning. But a lot of national people have complained a lot about Texas backing out of the 2032 and 2033 series with the Arizona State Sun Devils, and about how, you're scared, all this different stuff. I think anytime you hear a schedule cancellation these days, it's just the immediate thought is like cowardice, whatever. You're backing out of all this. And I'm glad Chris Bennett brought this up. It's Arizona State. And I know Texas just played them in the playoff. I know they've been running a decent program, a great program. They won a Big 12 title. They've done good things under Kenny Dillingham. But there's a series. There are two different series on the screen that have not yet been canceled for the reasons I think national people are criticizing Texas. Well, you're scared, blah, 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 blah. And that's the other series with Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan. Right. Ohio State and Michigan aren't going away. Those games staying on the schedule and looking the way they are, going to Michigan in 24, going to Ohio State in 25, putting those games on Fox. Putting those games on Fox. Those were parts of the reason why Texas was able to get out of the Big 12 early, because the Big 12 TV's partner in Fox, it was like, we're not going to get the Longhorns anymore. We need to get these games. So 24 and 25, that gave Fox two premier brand versus brand matchups in the early season in order to help Texas get into the SEC a little bit sooner.
Joe, let's call it like we see it. Let's just call it like we see it. What else is Ari going to talk about? Hey, we got to cancel. We got to we got a cancellation. Oh, I know what side I'm going to go on this. Well, what else is there going on today? Well, they just did the basketball all-star game, and the Winter Olympics is still going on. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to gripe and bitch that Texas canceled a game from when my third grade son is going to graduate high school. That's exactly what this is. It's not. It's just, let's fill airtime with griping and bitching. And that's exactly what Ari did. In
some of his defense, it hasn't been logged only at Texas. Texas was just Texas was just the most recent one to do it.
So he goes after Texas when everyone is doing this. But you know why? It clicks
but he understands Ohio State and Alabama are going to cancel their series. I think Louisville had one with somebody who he across the board has been consistent. He's been consistent.
I give him that. But yesterday's diatribe was pointed at Texas because there's nothing else to talk about. It had nothing to do with Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham is going to be at Arizona State in 8 years. That sucker's going to be leading a bigger program in 5.
Right. He's been consistent in saying all these cancellations stink because they're taking power conference versus power conference out of conference games away. Yeah, I don't think the Arizona State one is the one to really get hung up on, and I got to call
exactly, dude, 100%.
Mostly because it's not 6 years from now.
Sandman just called it. The faux rage is just so overdone.
It's also it's the media's fault.
Yeah,
yeah,
because and it's the committee's fault, but the committee is going to do what's politically expedient because that's what committees do. It's garbage. When Kurt Signetti won the championship in Indiana with a super easy schedule, nobody talked about the schedule. They just talked about how he was the greatest coach of the modern era now, and how momentous what Indiana had achieved was. And we have the playoff too. So it's not like you can win the you can't win the championship without playing good teams anyway.
Correct.
So and a lot of good teams.
As Paul has been saying recently, like Notre Dame and Texas Tech have these schedules now that make them almost shoe-ins to make the playoffs
every year.
And Notre Dame also has this proviso that gets them in basically automatically every year.
Yep.
So
you're going to bitch about Texas canceling a Big 12 school. That is just.
Here's the other thing about it.
I think if Texas did something they said they are not going to do and canceled Ohio State and Michigan and plugged in a different required power conference team, because the Big Ten does not require you to play an out-of-conference Power 4 game. The SEC does. So I think if Texas had canceled Ohio State, Michigan, again, what they are not going to do, then a lot of the criticism that people have been giving Texas would be a little bit more justified.
I agree, Joe.
I don't think Arizona State's in that category.
Nope.
And also because of the carve-out Notre Dame has, Notre Dame's not even in that category anymore. Like if the 28 and 29 games for non-conference were, let's just say it was USC. If it was USC and Texas backed up, well, okay, that doesn't make sense because Lincoln Riley doesn't want that. Okay, Clemson. Let's say it was Clemson. If Texas had a 28 and 29 series with Clemson instead of Notre Dame and backed out of those games, I'd be pretty opposed to that. I'd be pretty upset with that. But Clemson's in a different category. They're in the ACC. Yeah, they're slipping. They've been a good program. Notre Dame, I feel like, is an entirely separate conversation just because of the fact that they have those carve-outs. And it's a separate conversation in the same way Arizona State is, because of the fact that that's A, so long down the road, and B, what if Texas like throws Nebraska in there? Like, what if we're criticizing for something that hasn't even had a replacement yet in a format we don't know what will look like in the next 5 years? I've always kind of operated from the overarching point, like, schedule games, and what solves all this? Winning those games. You know what? Because if you win those games, then you don't have to complain about like, oh, should we do this or not? Well, it's a 50-50 proposition, and people don't think like I do because there's a lot more at stake for them than there is for me. But like I really do think like you got to be able to if you play teams, you got to win. But because there's so much uncertainty, even past 2029, this 26, 27, 20, like after 2029, we don't know what SEC scheduling looks like. We don't know what SEC looks like. After this year, we don't know what the playoff looks like. There's so many different considerations to where I don't know why a game in 2032 and 33 is something that's going to draw ire. I do kind of understand the across the board. I don't like seeing games canceled. That's a little bit more defensible, in my opinion. I don't agree with it because there's so much more nuance to it, but I understand, like, I like seeing these early season helmet games, but now we've got a playoff.
Yeah.
You're going to get those helmet games.
You know how you say, Joe, you just win the schedule you're given.
Yeah.
That used to be the MO. Now it's just get in the playoffs. Yeah. It's not win the schedule you're given. It's do whatever you have to do to get in the playoff, and then you go from there. So it's a different track now.
Ian?
You're right that Arizona State is a funny example because it's not even a helmet game.
Well, it used to be until they changed it to those other funky new styles. Do not hate on the Arizona State helmet from the last 10, 20, 30 years. Come on, Ian, you're better than that.
I'm just speaking metaphorically. Arizona State.
Okay, never mind.
They don't have like a big following.
You're right. You're right. I thought you were dogging on their helmet. That's a classic.
People don't go through the TV guide and they're like, well, who's Arizona State playing this week? Because I'm always down to watch Arizona State, said no one, right?
Yeah. Well,
Even in Arizona, they don't care.
no.
So it's funny from that perspective. Obviously, I think the fix, it sucks to get rid of good games in the beginning of the year, and it's self-destructive and stupid. But the media has abetted it because they
Playoff.
all they care about is how many games you lose at the end of the year.
Yeah. The big wins are no longer as a
Big
bigger
wins
factor
don't
as
have
the
any
big losses.
value. Yeah. So, but the fix is pretty easy because all you do is just because Texas is, everybody's playing these 9 conference games now. So you're not really the expansion of the conference schedule plus the playoff means you actually have more helmet games than before.
Just later on.
A lot more. So all you do is you move some of the conference games to the first week or 2 of the season, and then that's it. You're good. Problem solved.
Mix and match them.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do because they have to have ratings. You can't give away those few weeks before the NFL starts that college football has. You can't just give those away and let the cancellation of these games destroy the sport's attempts to grab television set eyeballs at the beginning of the season and build hype for the year. So you just move Texas versus Alabama to week 1 or week 0, and then that's that.
Hey, Jeff Traylor said it best. Let's move up the weeks let's move up these things a few weeks. By mid-August, he's watching basket weaving, washer competitions, throwing washer competitions on ESPN The Ocho. He's like, man, we're so bored 2 weeks into camp. We're ready to play somebody else. Let's just move it up 2 weeks and let's get after it. I kind of like Traylor's vision there.
It's a good idea too, because maybe you could get the playoffs done with.
Why is college football determined to play through this to the Super Bowl? I don't get that. But you give this sucker 2 more years, and it's going to be national championship Saturday and Super Bowl Sunday. Like, they are stretching this thing so far, and the NFL is looking at them like,
it's a bad idea too, because December and August are your prime college football months. There's a huge opportunity in December and August for college football, and your calendar should reflect it.
Amen.
I think a lot of it has to do with just there's some how do I say this the right way? I think what a lot of it has to do with how big the playoff gets. So that's part of it. And that, as you know, as that expands, that continues to, eat up the calendar. I love the start on week 0. Conferences are going to be hesitant to give up championship games just because they pay. It's a guarantee that the top 2 teams in the league are going to play each other, except if you're in the ACC because you got 17 teams. It's a guarantee you're going to have Georgia and Bama, or you're going to have Texas and Georgia, or you're going to have, I don't know, Indiana, Ohio State, or Indiana or an Oregon, Penn State. Like, you're going to be guaranteed a conference championship game with 2 great teams. No matter what type of fatigue we have, people are going to tune in to watch Alabama play Georgia. So conferences aren't going to want to give that up.
It's too much of a money pool.
I do think the idea of starting week 0, that last weekend of August, or the weekend which is the weekend typically before Labor Day weekend, perfect idea. Because if you're going to make everybody play 16, 17 games, you need another bye. And college football has been very lucky these past couple of years for the calendar to line up to where everybody gets a double bye. That's not built in. That just happened to be the case with this calendar. If you plug in,
I didn't realize that wasn't built in.
Yeah, it's only because the calendar has looked a certain way the past couple of years.
Okay.
If you go to week 0, start on August, and this is a good point. You're going to have to figure out, like, there's even some state laws. Like, I think in Arizona, you cannot, by state law, play a game until after 6 p.m. local in August and September. And I think that's built into like high school sports too, just because it's freaking hot in Arizona. It's freaking hot everywhere. And I think LSU, Louisiana may have a similar law.
It'd be rare because Louisiana doesn't have any laws.
You're going to have to figure out and make it work with the TV partners and be like, look, we got to fill up on night games at a lot of these places just because it's 130 degrees on the turf.
Can
but
we
I think
stop calling it week 0?
It'll change. It'll
Can we
change.
make a movement for that? Because what is 0? It's nothing. It's the absence of anything. Like I'll never get that. That always threw me off in Texas high school football.
So I think moving the schedule up 1 week to where you're still legally protected from the NFL behemoth by the Sports Broadcasting Act, which is why Cody Campbell's going after that. You have the
Olympic sports.
You still have the ability to own Friday and Saturday in a way that no other sport can except for local high school football. And you can still get it all done by mid-January. And then, you know what? It's a problem a select few teams will have to deal with. But if you run with that January portal window, either there's only going to be 2 teams left and they're going to have the benefit of being national championship contenders to be like, hey, sorry, we can't communicate with you as much. We're playing for the national championship. Or everybody else working because they're still playing school. I feel like that's the right thing. But then we got to figure out, okay, what's going to happen with the playoff? Because the Big Ten wants it to expand so Fox can get those games. That's the big reason.
Yes.
So it's a lot of moving parts. It's all boardroom, not
the Big Ten has momentum right now, Joe. I think they sense that they have some momentum. The last 3 consecutive national champions out of the Big Ten? I think they feel like they've got a little bit of more stake at the table now. And so they want to, I'm not saying posture, but they're like, hey, wait a minute. We don't want to let the SEC catch up to this momentum we got right now. So let's keep pushing this thing out further.
I think
which is smart.
The next big thing is going to be, and I bet this is going to be a huge topic at SEC spring meetings, is do they keep the requirement to play a power conference non-conference game? Because the Big Ten doesn't have that. That's why Indiana marched through its schedule. That's why Penn State started 3-0, because they don't have to play power conference teams.
If we know the SEC like we know them, it'll be a cupcake.
And
they love cakes.
The SEC also has a problem that the Big Ten doesn't have, in that what are the schools? Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Kentucky. Their end of season rival is an out of conference game, and they're not going to give those games up.
No.
You would think. Think they're not going to give those. They're not going to give up Georgia Tech up, or the Palmetto Bowl, or Florida,
Kentucky, Louisville. Not happening.
They're not giving that up.
You don't want it to happen. That's the essence of college football, man.
So now that I say that out loud, that's why I think the SEC will probably keep that requirement, just so it can, just so like those rivalries don't get thrown away.
Bake in a cupcake as a bye is the way you should do it. If you want 2 of them, go ahead and bake in a cupcake to simulate a bye.
And here's the other thing they do. Like I do like that Texas plays these big out of conference games, but let's not kid ourselves about what like UTEP, Texas State, Sam Houston, San Jose State are. Like you play one and then you challenge
schools that they're helping fund money to.
Yeah, like let's not kid ourselves about what the other non-conference games look like for Texas. Like it's not like they're playing Ohio State and then they're going and playing U of H. You know, they're not doing that type of thing. But now there's only going to be, we'll see what happens. You know, now they only got 2 cupcakes because you're required to play 9 SEC games, and then you're still required to play a Power 4 out of conference game.
And then if you're lucky, you're going to play 4 playoff games.
Yeah.
It's the little NFL.
On one bye in your season.
Buddy, it's all about depth. The national champion in 2026 is going to be the team that's the deepest, that stayed the healthiest.
Well, also, this is why Indiana puts a very minor focus on practice and a heavy focus on like film study and meeting.
Really?
Yeah. They don't practice hard. Well, that storyline got out. Like, I was
going to say that doesn't sound like Cignetti. But.
It is, but like I don't know how much hard physical practices they're doing compared to some other teams.
I think they practice hard, but they don't practice very often.
They're very deliberate. If you listen to the way some of the coaches talk, and listen, a lot of most college practices, they're literally down to the minute. Every minute is scheduled. I think they're just incredibly efficient with the way they do it.
Yeah.
But they also do, they claim, Cignetti claims that they do a lot less of it than other schools. And then they put that time towards film study to preserve their bodies.
I worry about the wear and tear, not because the players need some of that contact early on to sort of prepare their body throughout the season. I'm not going to question that guy. He has the recipe. I found that fascinating in a sense. I felt like they would, because he comes from a place with like Alabama where the practices is more intense than the games.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little surprised by that.
But
that's just the interesting world.
You only had to play 14 games then. So
yeah, that too.
So it's a very difficult balance. It's in the fight world too, where you have to be used to the contact and the punishment, but
to endure the season.
But your body has a limited number it can take.
Yes. You have a ticker.
You cannot accumulate it in games that don't count. Like you need to find the minimal it takes to get you ready, and then you got to save those hits for when there's money at stake.
Oh, here's a good one to end on. Will the non-conference still be weak when it moves to a 2014 playoff? From what Chris Del Conte said, doesn't sound like it. Sounds like he loves those high-profile matchups coming to Austin. Like that those are his words, and until he does something, behaves different.
Joe, are you the one with the whole Northwestern, Boston College, UCLA? Is that your modest?
If you need to play a power conference team, play Northwestern, Boston College, and UCLA on end.
Okay, fans, Inside Texas fans, I want you to understand something. Boston College, that means Joe Cook gets to go to Fenway Park. Northwestern, that means Joe Cook gets to go to Wrigley or Comiskey. UCLA, that means he's going out there. He could go see the Dodgers. He could go see – nobody's going to go see the Angels. But he could go see the Padres up north a little bit. If you notice, Joe is very transparent. You can tell, hey, let's go play at these places where they have amazing baseball games in September. Joe, it's okay. I respect it.
And they're weak out of conference opponents.
Amen.
And except for Boston College, they're all playing in nice stadiums. UCLA is out of the Rose Bowl now, and then Northwestern just opened up a big time.
Where does UC play?
UCLA is moving
stadium, don't they?
No, UCLA is moving to the Ram Stadium, and then USC
No. Boston College.
They have an on-campus stadium.
Ooh, why wouldn't they try to utilize?
Foxborough is close to nothing.
Okay.
Foxborough is way out. It's like.
What do you mean? I mean, it's
like imagine if they
Massachusetts. Nothing is way out from anything.
Imagine if they put Jerry World in Melissa.
Yeah, that's a 45-minute drive.
We're
different. We're an hour drive in Texas is so much different than a 20-minute drive anywhere else.
Ian, what's coming up on the deep dive later?
We're live at 12. So we have some leftover questions from the board that we're going to get into. I actually don't remember what they are. I should probably peek at them in the next hour or two. And then we'll take a couple questions live as well.
Perfect.
Let it be a scatter shot.
Appreciate it. Make sure you all like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. Go to InsideTexas.com. Use that first link in our description. Use that QR code at the top left of the screen. Join up for just $1. Been bringing recruiting scoop. Got some NFL. Hey, the Combine's next week. That'll be fun to talk about. Or starting some conversation on that. 7 Longhorns heading there to Indianapolis. So make sure you come join the conversation. Of course, we've got the team info dialed up. Basketball, baseball, a lot of great stuff happening on the 40 acres. Tennis, winning the indoor national championship. Softball at the top of the ranks. A lot of great stuff happening over at Inside Texas. So, Justin, thank you so much. Ian, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. See you next time on IT Live, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors.